Commander Lyrelay Starweaver stood on the bridge of her exploration ship and watched the stars through the crystal viewing screen. Her pale blue skin seemed to glow in the soft light of her ship's controls. Like all Zephyrians, she had pointed ears and silver eyes that sparkled with intelligence. Her long white hair moved gently as she turned her head to look at the sensor readings. The Zephyrian fleet had been traveling through this part of space for 3 months now. They were looking for new worlds that might have interesting plants or minerals. The Zephyrians loved to learn about new things, but they never took anything without asking first. Peace was the most important thing in their culture. Science Officer Kira Moonwhisper walked up to Lyrelay with a worried look on her face. Kira was younger than her commander, with shorter silver hair and the same glowing blue skin. She held a datapad in her hands and her silver eyes looked concerned. "Commander, we are picking up something strange on our long-range sensors," Kira said in their musical language. "There is a very large object moving toward us from the edge of this solar system." Lyrelay looked at the data on Kira's pad. The readings showed something massive, much bigger than any Zephyrian ship. The object was made of metal and seemed to be powered by some kind of energy source they had never seen before. "Could it be a space station or mining platform?" Lyrelay asked. Kira shook her head. "The readings show it is moving too fast and in a straight line toward us. It must be a ship of some kind, but it is 5 times larger than our biggest exploration vessel." Lyrelay felt a small worry in her chest. The Zephyrians had been exploring space for thousands of years, but they had never met another species that traveled between the stars. The idea that they might finally meet other intelligent beings was exciting but also scary. "Send a message to the other ships in our fleet," Lyrelay ordered. "Tell them to move into protective formation around our science vessels." As the Zephyrian ships moved into position, the massive object came closer. When it finally appeared on their main viewing screen, every Zephyrian on the bridge stopped talking and stared. The ship was gray and black, with sharp edges and thick armor plating covering every surface. Strange weapons stuck out from its sides like metal teeth. Red lights blinked along its hull, and exhaust came from massive engines at the back. Everything about the ship looked designed for war. On the bridge of the USS Valiant, Captain Lisa Morgan looked at her own viewing screen and saw the alien ships for the first time. Lisa was a tall woman with brown hair tied back in a military style. She had been in the human space navy for 15 years and had seen many strange things, but never anything like this. "Tactical report," Lisa ordered. Lieutenant Amy Rodriguez looked up from her weapons console. Amy was a young officer with dark hair and quick eyes. "Captain, I count 12 alien vessels. They appear to be exploration ships with minimal defensive capabilities. No weapons detected." Lisa raised her eyebrows. Ships with no weapons? That seemed impossible to her. In human space, every ship had at least basic defenses against pirates or hostile aliens. "Are you sure about that, Lieutenant?" "Yes, ma'am. Their hulls appear to be made of some kind of crystal composite, but it looks like it's designed for beauty rather than protection. The ships are definitely not built for combat." Captain Morgan walked closer to the viewing screen. The alien ships were elegant and graceful, with smooth curves and surfaces that seemed to shimmer like jewels. They looked more like works of art than spacecraft. "Communications. Try to establish contact with the alien vessels," Lisa ordered. On the Zephyrian command ship, Kira suddenly looked up from her console with wide eyes. "Commander, the large ship is sending us some kind of signal. It appears to be mathematical sequences repeated over and over." Lyrelay nodded. Mathematics was universal, so it made sense that another intelligent species would use numbers to try to communicate. "Send back the same sequence, but add the next logical numbers in the pattern. Let them know we understand." Back on the USS Valiant, Amy Rodriguez smiled as she watched her screen. "Captain, they're responding to our mathematical sequence. They understood the pattern and completed it correctly." Captain Morgan felt a mix of excitement and caution. First contact with an alien species was something humans had dreamed about for centuries, but she also had to think about the safety of her crew. "Can we establish two-way communication?" "Working on it now, ma'am. I'm sending basic pictographic representations of objects and mathematical concepts." Lyrelay watched as her communications officer worked to decode the signals from the massive human ship. Slowly, they began to understand that the beings on the other ship were trying to share pictures and simple concepts. "They seem intelligent," Kira observed. "But I don't understand why they built such a frightening-looking ship." Lyreley had been wondering the same thing. The ship looked like it was designed to destroy other ships and attack planets. The weapons she could see were enormous, much larger than anything the Zephyrians could even imagine building. "Perhaps they come from a dangerous part of space," Lyreley suggested. "Maybe they need protection from hostile forces." As the two fleets faced each other in the vast emptiness of space, both sides tried to understand what they were looking at. The humans saw beautiful but seemingly defenseless ships, while the Zephyrians saw a massive war machine that could destroy their entire fleet without effort. Captain Morgan made a decision. "All hands, this is the captain. We are making first contact with an alien species. Everyone will follow first contact protocols. No aggressive actions unless I give direct orders." Lyreley made a similar announcement to her fleet. Both commanders understood they were part of something historic, but neither could predict how this meeting would change both their species forever. The two fleets held their positions, separated by thousands of kilometers of empty space, as they began the careful process of learning to communicate with completely different forms of intelligent life. Dr. Helen Carter sat in her small office aboard the USS Valiant, staring at the strange symbols that appeared on her computer screen. As the ship's xenolinguistic specialist, it was her job to figure out how to talk to the aliens. Helen was a woman in her 40s with gray hair and patient eyes. She had spent years studying how different human cultures communicated, but this was completely different. The alien symbols looked like flowing water mixed with starlight. Each character seemed to change slightly as she watched it, like it was alive. Helen had never seen anything like it before. "Computer, play back the last transmission from the alien fleet," she said. The speakers filled with a sound that was part music and part language. The alien voices rose and fell like singing, but Helen could tell they were trying to communicate specific ideas. She listened carefully and made notes about the patterns she heard. A knock on her door interrupted her work. "Come in," she called. Commander Beth Stone entered the office. Beth was the leader of the Marine Corps unit on the USS Valiant. She was tall and strong, with short blonde hair and serious eyes. "Doctor, the captain wants to know if you've made any progress with their language." Helen sighed and pointed at her screen. "It's the most complex communication system I've ever encountered. Each symbol seems to have multiple meanings depending on how it's used, and their spoken language uses tones and harmonics that suggest they might have different vocal cords than humans." "Can you talk to them or not?" Beth asked in her direct way. "I'm working on basic concepts. We've established numbers, simple objects, and spatial relationships. But understanding their culture and intentions will take much longer." Meanwhile, on the Zephyrian command ship, navigator Zara Silvermoon was having her own struggles with human communication. Zara was young for a Zephyrian, with bright silver hair that sparkled and curious purple eyes. She had volunteered to help with the translation work because she loved learning new things. "The human language is so harsh," Zara said to Science Officer Kira. "Listen to how they make their sounds." She played back a recording of Captain Morgan's voice. To Zephyrian ears, human speech sounded choppy and aggressive, with hard consonants and sharp changes in tone. Kira nodded thoughtfully. "Their communication style matches their ship design. Everything about them seems focused on strength and directness." Commander Lyreley walked over to where the two younger Zephyrians were working. "What have you learned about their culture from their language patterns?" Zara looked at her notes. "They seem to have concepts for hierarchy and command structure that we don't really have. Words like captain, lieutenant, and orders appear frequently in their transmissions." "Orders?" Lyreley asked. The Zephyrian language had no exact word for this concept. In their culture, all decisions were made by group discussion until everyone agreed. It appears that one human tells other humans what to do, and the others must obey without question, Kira explained. "This seems to be how they organize their society." Lyreley felt a chill run through her body. A society where some people had absolute power over others sounded frightening to her. The Zephyrians believed that all beings should be free to make their own choices. Back on the USS Valiant, Captain Morgan was meeting with her senior officers in the main conference room. Dr. Carter had joined them to share what she had learned about the aliens. Their society appears to be completely democratic, Helen explained. Every decision is made by group consensus. They don't seem to have military ranks or chain of command as we understand it. Lieutenant Amy Rodriguez looked confused. How do they get anything done? What happens in an emergency if they have to debate every decision? That's exactly what worries me, said Commander Stone. A society like that would be helpless against any kind of attack. No wonder their ships have no weapons. Captain Morgan studied the data on her tablet. Dr. Carter, have you been able to determine their intentions? Are they explorers, traders, or something else? Helen nodded. From what I can tell, they're pure scientists and explorers. They seem to travel through space looking for new discoveries, but they don't appear to take anything without permission. Their whole culture seems built around peaceful exploration and learning. That explains why they looked so shocked when they saw our ship, Amy observed. To them, we probably look like some kind of space monster. The conversation was interrupted by a message from the communications officer. Captain, we're receiving another transmission from the alien fleet. Dr. Carter, they're requesting you to join the communication. Helen hurried back to her station and opened the channel. On her screen appeared the face of a Zephyrian female. The alien's silver eyes looked worried, and her musical voice carried notes of concern. Using the basic vocabulary they had established, the alien tried to communicate something important. Helen worked hard to translate the meaning. She's asking about our weapons, Helen finally said. She wants to know why we have so many guns and missiles on our ship. Captain Morgan considered how to answer this question. How could she explain to a peaceful species that humans had learned to fight because they had to? How could she make them understand that weapons were sometimes necessary to protect the innocent? On the Zephyrian ship, Lyrelai waited for the human response. She had asked about their weapons because she genuinely could not understand why anyone would build such destructive devices. In her experience, all intelligent beings were naturally peaceful and cooperative. When the human response came, it was Dr. Carter's voice, speaking slowly in broken Zephyrian phrases. Weapons for protection. Bad aliens in space. Must defend. Home worlds. Lyrelai felt her silver eyes grow wide with shock. Bad aliens? The concept was almost impossible for her to understand. She had always believed that intelligence and evil could not exist in the same being. Ask them to explain what they mean by bad aliens, she told her communications officer. Dr. Carter tried her best to explain using simple concepts and pictures. She showed images of destroyed colonies, attacked cargo ships, and enslaved populations. She tried to communicate that some species in the galaxy used violence to take what they wanted from others. As the translation came through, Lyrelai felt sick to her stomach. The humans were describing a universe where intelligent beings hurt each other on purpose, a universe where peaceful explorers like her own people could be attacked and destroyed by others who wanted to steal from them. Commander, Kira said quietly, if what they're saying is true, then we've been traveling through space completely unprotected. Any of these violent species could have destroyed us at any time. Lyrelai looked at the image of the massive human warship on her screen. For the first time, she began to understand that the frightening weapons and thick armor might not be signs of evil, but signs of wisdom. The humans had learned to protect themselves in a dangerous universe. The realization changed everything about how she viewed the situation. These humans might not be monsters after all. They might be guardians. Ambassador Kelly Wright checked her appearance in the mirror one last time before heading to the shuttle bay. Kelly was an experienced diplomat with red hair and calm green eyes. She had spent 10 years helping different human colonies resolve their conflicts, but she had never imagined she would be the first human ambassador to meet an alien species. The shuttle bay of the USS Valiant was busy with activity. Marines in dress uniforms stood at attention while technicians made final checks on the diplomatic shuttle. Captain Morgan walked over to Kelly with a serious expression on her face. Remember, Ambassador, we still don't fully understand their culture or their intentions, Lisa said. Keep the meeting short and don't agree to anything without consulting with me first. Kelly nodded and picked up her briefcase containing translation devices and gifts for the aliens. I understand, Captain. This is just a preliminary meeting to establish formal contact. Chief Engineer Maria Santos approached them, carrying a small device in her hands. Maria was a short woman, with dark hair and oil stains on her uniform from working in the engine room. "Ambassador, I've programmed this translator with everything Dr. Carter has learned about their language. It should help with basic communication." "Thank you, Maria," Kelly said, clipping the device to her belt. "Wish me luck." As Kelly's shuttle left the USS Valiant, a similar scene was taking place on the Zephyrian command ship. High Counselor Ilara Dawnbringer prepared for the most important meeting in her species' history. Ilara was an elder Zephyrian with long silver hair that had begun to turn white with age. Her silver eyes held the wisdom of centuries, and her presence commanded respect from all who met her. Technical specialist Vera Starsong helped Ilara prepare the translation equipment they would need. Vera was younger than Ilara, with bright blue skin and curious eyes that never stopped moving. She was fascinated by the human technology they had observed. "Counselor, the humans appear to follow very rigid social protocols," Vera explained. "They seem to show respect through specific body movements and formal speech patterns." Ilara nodded thoughtfully. "We must be careful not to accidentally offend them. These beings carry terrible weapons, and we do not want to make them angry." The two shuttles met at a point exactly halfway between the two fleets. The human shuttle was small and functional, with thick armor and defensive systems. The Zephyrian shuttle looked like a work of art, with flowing curves and surfaces that seemed to glow with inner light. When the airlocks connected and the doors opened, both sides got their first close look at each other. Kelly Wright stepped into the Zephyrian shuttle and immediately felt like she had entered a dream. The walls seemed to be made of living crystal that pulsed with soft light. Strange plants grew in containers that floated in the air without any visible support. High Counselor Ilara entered the human shuttle and was shocked by how different everything looked. The walls were made of hard metal, and everything seemed designed for durability rather than beauty. Weapons and emergency equipment were mounted on the walls where the Zephyrians would have put art or flowers. The two groups met in the center section where their shuttles connected. Kelly bowed slightly in greeting, which was a human gesture of respect. Ilara placed her hands together and touched them to her forehead, which was how Zephyrians showed honor to others. "Welcome," Kelly said through her translator. "I am Ambassador Kelly Wright, representing the United Earth Federation." "Greetings," Ilara replied, her musical voice flowing through the translation device. "I am High Counselor Ilara Dawnbringer, speaking for the Zephyrian Exploration Collective." The two women sat down at a table that had been set up for the meeting. Kelly noticed that the Zephyrian chairs seemed to adjust automatically to her body, becoming more comfortable as she sat. Ilara observed that the human furniture was hard and unchanging, built to last rather than to provide comfort. "We have many questions about your people," Kelly began carefully. "We hope this meeting can help both our species understand each other better." Ilara nodded. "We also wish to learn. Your people puzzle us greatly. Why do you travel through space with such fearsome weapons?" Kelly had expected this question. Dr. Carter had warned her that the aliens seemed to have no experience with violence or conflict. "We build weapons to protect ourselves and others from hostile species. Not all intelligent beings in the galaxy are peaceful like your people." "This concept troubles us deeply," Ilara admitted. "We have traveled among the stars for thousands of years and have never encountered any being that wished to harm us." "You've been very lucky," Kelly said. "There are species out there that attack others to steal resources or capture slaves. Without weapons to defend ourselves, we would be helpless against them." Ilara's silver eyes grew wide with shock. "Slaves? You mean some beings force others to work against their will?" Kelly realized she was explaining concepts that were completely foreign to the Zephyrian way of thinking. "Yes, unfortunately. There are those who believe that might makes right, and that stronger beings have the right to control weaker ones." As the conversation continued, both women began to understand just how different their species' experiences had been. The Zephyrians had evolved in a part of space where aggressive species were rare. They had developed technology and culture based on cooperation and harmony. Humans had evolved in a more dangerous region, where survival often depended on being stronger than your enemies. "Tell me about your government," Kelly requested. "How do your people make decisions?" Ilara explained the Zephyrian system of collective consensus. "When we face a choice, All affected parties discuss the options until we reach agreement that satisfies everyone. No decision is made until all voices have been heard and all concerns addressed. Kelly tried to imagine how such a system would work in human society. What happens if people disagree and cannot reach consensus? We continue discussing until we find a solution that works for all, Ilara said simply. Sometimes this takes many days, but we believe that decisions made in harmony are stronger than decisions made by force. But what about emergencies? Kelly asked. What if you need to make a quick decision to save lives? Ilara looked confused. What kind of emergency would require such haste that there was no time for proper discussion? Kelly realized that the Zephyrians had never faced the kind of crises that humans dealt with regularly. They had never been attacked by pirates, never had to evacuate colonies before an invasion, never had to make split-second decisions in battle. Their conversation was interrupted by an urgent communication from both fleets simultaneously. Technical specialist Vera Starsong appeared on Ilara's communication device, while Captain Morgan's voice came through Kelly's radio. Counselor, we are detecting multiple unknown ships approaching our position at high speed, Vera reported with worry in her voice. Ambassador, we have incoming bogies on long-range sensors, Captain Morgan announced. They're not responding to communication and they're not broadcasting any identification signals. Kelly and Ilara looked at each other with sudden understanding. The peaceful meeting was about to become something much more dangerous. Counselor, Kelly said urgently, I think your people are about to see exactly why we carry weapons. As alarms began sounding on both shuttles, the two diplomats realized that their first contact meeting was about to become a trial by fire. The attack came without warning. 12 dark ships dropped out of hyperspace and immediately opened fire on both the human and Zephyrian fleets. These were Void Reapers, a species known throughout the galaxy for their brutality and greed. They had sharp black ships covered in spikes and weapons, and they attacked anyone they thought was weak. Lieutenant Colonel Kate Johnson was in the fighter bay of the USS Valiant when the alarm sounded. Kate was a pilot with 15 years of combat, experience and nerves of steel. Her short brown hair was already tucked under her flight helmet as she ran toward her fighter craft. All pilots to your ships, Kate announced over the intercom. This is not a drill. We have multiple hostile contacts incoming. On the bridge of the USS Valiant, Captain Morgan watched the tactical display as the enemy ships spread out to surround both fleets. The Void Reapers were using a classic attack pattern designed to prevent their targets from escaping. Tactical report, Morgan ordered. Lieutenant Amy Rodriguez looked up from her weapons console with grim determination. 12 enemy vessels, frigate to cruiser class. They're armed with plasma cannons and torpedo launchers. They're moving to attack positions around both our fleet and the aliens. What about the Zephyrian ships? Still no weapons detected, Captain. They're completely defenseless. On the Zephyrian command ship, Commander Lirelai watched in horror as the dark ships approached. She had never seen anything like them before. Where Zephyrian ships were beautiful and human ships were functional, these vessels looked like they were designed by nightmares. Every surface was covered with weapons or armor spikes. Commander, they are sending us a message, reported her communications officer. The message was simple and brutal. The Void Reapers demanded that both fleets surrender immediately. Any ships that tried to run would be destroyed. Any ships that fought back would be captured and their crews sold as slaves. Lirelai felt her silver blood turn cold. Now she understood what the humans had been trying to explain to her. These beings really did exist, creatures that used violence to take what they wanted from others. Send a message to the human ship, Lirelai ordered. Tell them we will follow their lead. Captain Morgan received the Zephyrian message just as the first enemy shots began hitting her ship's shields. The USS Valiant shook under the impact, but her thick armor and powerful defensive systems held strong. All hands, battle stations, Morgan announced. We are engaging hostile forces. Protect the civilian ships at all costs. The space battle that followed was unlike anything the Zephyrians had ever imagined. The USS Valiant moved like a deadly dancer, using its massive guns to blast holes in enemy ships while its fighters swarmed around the attackers like angry wasps. Kate Johnson led her squadron of 12 fighters in a coordinated attack on the largest Void Reaper ship. Her voice crackled over the radio as she guided her pilots through the dangerous battle. Blue Squadron, form up on me. We're going after their command ship. Watch out for their point defense guns. The human fighters moved with precision and skill, diving and weaving between enemy fire while launching their own missiles at critical targets. Kate's fighter spun through a series of barrel rolls as plasma bolts flew past her cockpit. Shield technician Nova Lightweaver watched the battle from the bridge of her Zephyrian ship with a mixture of fear and amazement. Nova was young and brilliant, with pale blue skin and silver hair that sparkled when she was excited. She had always worked on peaceful technologies, but now she was seeing the value of human military science. "Commander Lyrelay," Nova called out, "I have an idea. Our shield generators are much more advanced than human technology. What if we could extend our protective fields to cover their ship?" Lyrelay looked at Nova with hope in her silver eyes. "Can you do that?" "I think so, but I'll need to modify our entire power grid. It will leave us completely vulnerable, but it might give the humans the protection they need to win this fight." While Nova worked frantically to adapt Zephyrian technology for combat use, the battle raged around them. The USS Valiant was fighting against overwhelming odds, taking damage from multiple enemy ships while trying to protect the defenseless alien vessels. One of the Zephyrian exploration ships took a direct hit from a Void Reaper torpedo. The beautiful crystal hull cracked and atmosphere began venting into space. Captain Morgan immediately ordered two of her fighters to provide cover while the damaged ship tried to make repairs. "This is Blue 7, called one of the human pilots. "I'm taking heavy fire trying to protect the alien ship. These guys really want to capture them." Captain Morgan realized that the Void Reapers saw the advanced Zephyrian technology as a valuable prize. They would probably try to capture the alien ships intact rather than destroy them, which gave her an idea. "All Zephyrian vessels, this is Captain Morgan, move your ships closer to ours. Use us as shields while you make whatever repairs you need." Commander Lyrelay immediately ordered her fleet to follow the human instructions. As the Zephyrian ships moved closer to the USS Valiant, Nova finally completed her modifications. "Commander, I'm ready to extend our shields," Nova announced. "But this will drain all our power reserves. We'll only have one chance to make this work." "Do it," Lyrelay ordered. A brilliant blue energy field suddenly expanded from the Zephyrian ships and merged with the human defensive systems. The combined shield technology was stronger than either species could have achieved alone. The USS Valiant's weapons became more effective as Zephyrian power flowed through human targeting systems. Kate Johnson watched in amazement as her fighters' weapons suddenly became twice as powerful. "Command, whatever the aliens just did, it's working. My missiles are cutting through enemy armor like paper." The tide of battle began to turn. The combined human Zephyrian defense proved more effective than the Void Reapers had expected. One by one, the enemy ships began to fall to the devastating combination of human firepower and Zephyrian technology. When the last Void Reaper ship exploded in a ball of plasma fire, both fleets found themselves floating in the debris field of their defeated enemies. The humans had proven their military strength, while the Zephyrians had shown that peaceful technology could be adapted to serve protective purposes. Captain Morgan opened a communication channel to Commander Lyrelay. "Commander, your people saved us out there. Without your shield technology, we couldn't have protected everyone." Lyrelay responded with genuine gratitude in her musical voice. "Captain, your warriors fought with courage we never knew existed. You protected us when we could not protect ourselves." As both fleets began rescue operations to help damaged ships, the crews of both species realized that something important had changed. The Zephyrians now understood why humans carried weapons, and the humans had seen the value of Zephyrian peaceful innovation. The battle was over, but the real work of building understanding between their species was just beginning. 3 days after the battle, the combined human and Zephyrian fleets floated together in space like old friends. Repair crews from both species worked side by side, sharing tools and techniques to fix the damage from the fight. The sight would have been impossible to imagine just a week earlier. Dr. Rachel Green stood in the main conference room of the USS Valiant, preparing for the most important meeting of her career. Rachel was a cultural anthropologist with brown hair and kind eyes, who had spent years studying how different societies learned to work together. Captain Morgan had asked her to develop long-term plans for cooperation between humans and Zephyrians. "Are you ready for this, Doctor?" Captain Morgan asked as she entered the room. Rachel looked up from her notes and smiled. as ready as anyone, can be for creating the first interspecies alliance in human history. The conference room had been modified to accommodate both human and Zephyrian needs. The lighting was softer than usual to make the aliens comfortable, while the furniture remained sturdy enough for human use. Translation devices had been set up around the table to ensure perfect communication. Commander Lyrelai entered first, followed by several other Zephyrian leaders. The aliens moved with their characteristic grace, their silver eyes bright with curiosity and hope. Behind them came High Counselor Alara Dawnbringer and Technical Specialist Vera Starsong, both carrying datapads filled with information about Zephyrian technology and culture. Captain Morgan stood and offered a formal human military salute, which she had learned was similar to a Zephyrian gesture of respect. Commander Lyrelai, Counselor Alara, welcome aboard the USS Valiant. Lyrelai returned the greeting with a bow. Captain Morgan, we are honored to be here. The courage your people showed in battle has earned our deepest respect. As everyone took their seats around the conference table, Dr. Green activated the recording devices that would preserve this historic moment. Before we begin formal discussions, I want to say that what happened during the Void Reaper attack changed both our species forever. We learned that we are stronger together than we ever could be apart. Wisdom. Keeper Iris Moonbeam, the oldest Zephyrian present, spoke in her ancient voice. Iris had lived for over 1,000 years and had seen the rise and fall of many civilizations. Her white hair seemed to glow with inner light, and her silver eyes held depths of knowledge that impressed even the humans. Young ones of both species, Iris said through the translator. I have watched the stars for many centuries, and I have never seen such a beautiful example of different peoples learning to understand each other. The humans taught us that sometimes peace must be protected with strength, while we showed them that strength can be used to preserve rather than destroy. Captain Morgan nodded respectfully to the ancient alien. Wisdom Keeper Iris, your people's technology saved many human lives during the battle. We would be honored to learn from your peaceful sciences. Technical Specialist Vera Starsong leaned forward excitedly. Captain, we have been studying your ship's systems since the battle. Your engineering approaches are completely different from ours, but they are incredibly effective. We think there might be ways to combine our technologies. That would benefit both species. Dr. Green opened her folder and pulled out a preliminary agreement she had drafted. I've prepared a basic framework for cooperation between our peoples. It covers technology sharing, cultural exchange, and mutual defense. Admiral Susan Blake entered the conference room at that moment, her dress uniform perfect, and her gray hair pulled back in military style. Susan was the highest-ranking human officer in this sector of space, and she had come personally to witness the signing of the first interspecies treaty. Ladies and gentlemen, Admiral Blake announced, I bring greetings from the United Earth Federation Council. They have authorized me to sign any reasonable agreement with our new Zephyrian allies. Commander Lyrelai stood and bowed deeply to the Admiral. Admiral Blake, we are pleased to meet the leader of such honorable warriors. The Zephyrian Collective has also given me authority to speak for our people. Dr. Green began reading through the major points of the proposed agreement. First, both species agree to share defensive technologies and scientific knowledge for peaceful purposes. Second, we will establish cultural exchange programs so our peoples can learn from each other. Third, we pledge mutual assistance against any hostile forces that threaten either of our civilizations. Wisdom Keeper Iris raised her hand. Dr. Green, I would like to add something to this agreement. The Zephyrians have always believed that knowledge should be freely shared with those who will use it wisely. We offer to teach humans our most advanced peaceful technologies, including medical science, environmental restoration, and energy generation. Admiral Blake's eyes widened with interest. That is an incredibly generous offer, Wisdom Keeper. In return, we can offer training in defensive tactics, ship design, and protective technologies. Not to make your people warlike, but to help you defend the peace you value so much. Technical Specialist Vera spoke up enthusiastically. Admiral, we would very much like to learn about human engineering. Your people build things that last forever and work under the most difficult conditions. This could help us improve our exploration capabilities. Captain Morgan smiled as she watched the negotiations proceed. Commander Lyrelai, I have a suggestion. What if we assigned some of our crews to serve on each other's ships? Humans could learn Zephyrian science while your people learn human military procedures. Lyrelai's silver eyes sparkled with excitement. That is a wonderful idea, Captain. My science officer, Kira Moonwhisper, has already expressed interest in studying human tactical systems. Dr. Rachel Green made notes as the two species continued to find new ways to cooperate. Cultural exchange programs were planned, joint exploration. Missions were discussed, and research partnerships were established. There's one more thing I'd like to propose, Captain Morgan said. The galaxy is a dangerous place, as we've all learned. What if we created joint patrol fleets? Human military expertise combined with Zephyrian advanced technology could protect peaceful traders and explorers throughout this sector. Admiral Blake nodded approvingly. An excellent suggestion, Captain. Pirates and raiders like the Void Reapers prey on anyone who can't defend themselves. Joint patrols would make space safer for everyone. Wisdom. Keeper Iris stood slowly, her ancient form still graceful despite her great age. I have lived long, enough to see many first meetings between different peoples. Most end in fear, suspicion, or conflict. But today I see something rare and beautiful. Two species that choose cooperation over conquest, understanding over domination. Commander Lyrelai also stood and placed her hand over her heart in a Zephyrian gesture of sincere commitment. Wisdom Keeper Iris speaks truly. The humans could have seen us as weak and tried to conquer us. Instead, they protected us and offered friendship. This is the beginning of something greater than either of our species could achieve alone. Admiral Blake formally signed the agreement with a human military pen that had been used to sign important treaties for over a century. Commander Lyrelai signed with a Zephyrian crystal stylus that created symbols of light on the document. As the two leaders shook hands in the human manner and then touched foreheads in the Zephyrian way, Dr. Green realized she was witnessing the birth of a new age. Humans would no longer explore the galaxy alone, and Zephyrians would no longer travel defenseless through dangerous space. 6 months later, the first joint human-Zephyrian patrol ship launched from Earth's orbital shipyards. The vessel combined human military design with Zephyrian advanced technology, creating something entirely new. Its crew included both species working together as equals. Captain Morgan stood on the bridge of her new command, watching human and Zephyrian officers work side by side at their stations. Lieutenant Amy Rodriguez was training a young Zephyrian named Scylla Starwhisper in human tactical procedures, while Dr. Helen Carter learned advanced linguistics from a Zephyrian scholar. Captain, called Science Officer Kira Moonwhisper from her station, we are receiving a distress signal from a cargo convoy under attack by raiders. Captain Morgan smiled as she gave the order that would have been impossible just months before. All hands, battle stations, let's show these pirates what happens when humans and Zephyrians work together. The ship leaped into hyperspace, carrying its mixed crew toward their first mission as Guardians of the Galaxy. Behind them, the stars seemed to shine a little brighter, as if the universe itself approved of what these two species had accomplished together.